Please welcome Chris.
Howdy. My name is Chris Raymer. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. It's nice to see y'all. I'm glad I didn't have to drive from the airport last night up here. Oh my God, I came into Newark. I'm glad I had a chauffeur. Yeah, a New York lady drove me. I was in good hands. That's y'all know how to drive. We don't in Texas. So I uh I finally got sober in 1987. I spent a whole bunch of years. I'm not going to tell a bunch of my story, but I spent a whole bunch of years in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous trying to get well. I trying to save a marriage in the early 80s. I went to my first AA meeting, and these are some wonderful people. I'll talk more about it tonight, but these are some great people in those meetings. I'm not taking a shot at any of them. They loved me to death, and they were sweet and keep coming back and 5,000 one-liners, and I kept relapsing over and over and over. And towards the end of my little career in there, I mean, when I'd pick up a desire chip, nobody would applaud. It's like, yeah, right. Nobody believed that I was ever going to get sober. And I look back in hindsight about it. It was, uh, guys, I just didn't understand this. And I'm so frustrated because I watch you get sober in those meetings and I can't seem to get sober in those meetings. And I really, really want to get sober. I need to get sober. And I believe that because I had people say, well, you really want it bad enough, you'll get this. And that is absolute 100%. I'm going to remember where I am. I'm in a church and I am not going to cuss today. But that is absolute horse poot. The person in this gathering that wants to stay sober or needs to stay sober the most is not the person that's necessarily going to stay sober. It's the person that's finally figured out the truth based on his experience and actually does the work. And that's my experience. Let me tell you, guys, I celebrated 32 years in November. And I've worked in the industry, treatment business, and I'm not here to talk any about that. But I worked I've done it for like 27 years. I was about 5 years sober when I got a little intern job at a little treatment center. I've been doing it ever since. And I'm on the front line watching people come in. And there's just a lot of people up there that understand and can relate and resonate to my story. I know there's people that came in first time, picked up one chip and got sober. Man, that is the coolest. I just my twin brother did. I loser. I don't know. I couldn't do it. But I took him to the meeting where they were going to be carrying solution. I'm just convinced, and it'll be a prevailing thread to everything I say today. And I got to mention this. I get to share the podium. Where's there, my buddy Chrissy? I get to share the podium today with Chris and S for his anonymity. But he's one of my favorite people on earth, and I got to tell you, anytime you're doing workshops, you just pray that you're going to get a chance to do one with somebody that's on the same page. There is nothing worse than sharing the podium, doing a little step workshop like this with somebody that is not anywhere close to the same page. It's just, you spend a whole hour just trying to defend yourself, or contradict everything. Well, I didn't really agree with everything. He quit. We don't ever have to worry about that, because I've shared the podium with him a million times and he's pushing. And there's a bunch of you in this audience too. There's a bunch of you little thumpers that I've known for years, and I am so honored to see you again. It's so good. Patty's going to be miserable she missed this trip. She's just going to be so mad. Too bad. So sad. I got to see my peeps and you didn't. There you go. We're going to have fun today, guys. And I'm just going to tell you going in the door before I get too into this. I'm going to share my experience. And I'll say it again tonight when I talk. I'm going to share my experience, and my experience may be different than your experience. I used to spend a bunch of time at these deals just battling with you after I speak in between on the break because you didn't agree with something I said. Buddy, how cool. Just, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with Chris. We don't want to argue it. We're just going to share our experience. Next week, you can stand up here and you can share your experience. Try not to kill anybody while you're doing it. We're little thumpers, guys. We're coming out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What a concept. And that's all we can do. So, and I'm just saying, I love you to death. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with whatever. We're all friends in here. I love you. I know you're helping people the best you can, and I'm going to do the same. And let's get on down the road with it. It's just no big deal. God, if I had a nickel for every person that I disagreed with in AA, I'd be wealthy. So that's okay. We'll just keep. One of the things in 1987, when I finally got sober, after a little suicide attempt, and I ended up back in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I ended up back in a room, and there were a bunch of big book people. Literally, I walked in, and they were all carrying big books. They had big books in their lap, and I'd never been to a meeting like that. I'm up in North Texas, and I'm going to gazillions of meetings because I'm told that meeting makers make it, and I'm going, but we don't have any big books on the table. How it works is on a plaque, laminated on the little 6-foot table there with an ashtray that's about this big around with about 4,000 million cigarette butts in it, and that's the meetings I was going to, and people getting well in those meetings all day long. I don't know what to tell you, but I don't understand what it is. I'm 7 years in AA. I don't have a sponsor, and I don't own a big book. And I'll go until I just can't stand it anymore, and then I'll leave and go relapse again. It's just the nature of the beast, and we can talk about it. And anyway, in '87, some old geezers got around me, and after the meeting, and they asked me to stay a few minutes to see if they were going to qualify me. Because Chris, let us qualify you to find out if you're even a real alcoholic. And of course, I'm defensive. Of course, I'm an alcoholic. I'm drunk now. No. I'm an alcoholic. I know. And he says, I know, Chris, but if you really knew you were an alcoholic, you would get well. There's only 2 reasons that you will relapse. And I'll do this with a little dope things too. I'm just saying there's only 2 reasons. You don't know what the problem is, or you don't know what the solution is. You'd be amazed how many people come to Alcoholics Anonymous and still don't know what the problem is. They call themselves an alcoholic. Guys, I walked in the early 80s. I called myself an alcoholic for 7 years. I didn't any more believe it than the man in the moon. You don't understand. My case is different. I'm just misunderstood. If I could finally find a girlfriend, I could probably get sober. And if I could just get a job, if I could just, all the stuff that we talk about. Excuse me. I put little issue man up here. I know some of you in the back in the cheap seats can't see this. That's why they were cheap seats. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, this is more to keep me online. Up at the top, excuse me, I put a little my little email address. So any of the stuff I'm going to reference to some quotes and stuff. If you want copies of any of that, some of y'all like that stuff, and I can send them to you in a heartbeat. Somebody showed me Dropbox about 10 years ago, and it's awesome. Okay, I can send you real quick without much effort. But you see this little guy up here. Those little X's are all the issues. All God's kids got trouble. I'm going to say this right here. It's going to make some of y'all uncomfortable. Okay, y'all get ready. I love you. Let's hug after this is over. Remember, I'm in treatment, guys, but I'm spending years and years, and everybody comes into treatment, they got the same thing. I'm drinking because of this. If I ask the question, I got 80 people in treatment right now. I guarantee I could go ask them, and every single one of them would say this: I drink because of this. You're wrong. If you're drinking because of one of these X's, job, girl, trauma, what? Then you're a hard drinker, a hard drugger. You might not be one of us. This is why this is controversial when I say this, guys. This is what makes some of you uncomfortable, because you're sitting in these rooms and you're still questioning this yourself, whether you're really one of us or not. I'm not saying that stuff's not important. If you come to treatment and don't deal with that stuff, you're not going to stay sober, because it'll continue to block you from the sunlight of the Spirit. It'll continue to stop you from participating in this whole thing we call recovery. But if all you do is go to treatment and deal with all that external stuff, you're not going to stay sober, because dealing with that other stuff. Yeah. How many of you guys have ever stood in front of a medicine cabinet window in a bathroom with the door locked, with tears in your eyes, begging God to fix this, that you can't continue to drink and and do those other outside issues like you're doing. Every hand in here will be up. Harry Tebow said it was a Bill Wilson shrink for years, and a great quote. And I don't know if I brought it or not. It's clear that hitting bottom can produce a surrender, and that without surrender, an individual can hit bottom 1,000 times without anything significant taking place. Well-crafted sentence. Let me paraphrase. You can hit 1,000 bottoms, but unless you surrender at one of those bottoms, you're just going to keep hitting bottoms. What surrender is not crying in the medicine cabinet window or going to treatment. Surrender is committing to get on a spiritual path that'll change your life forever. But it's going to take some effort to get on that path and do the things that we're asking you to do. And if you're not convinced you're one of us, you're not going to get well. You're not going to do that work. So many of us, guys, I spent years, again, 7 years and now of Alcoholics Anonymous, listening to you tell me your scary, ooey war stories. I may just be the first to tell you again, your war story is not going to scare me into recovery. It might get my attention. Your war story might get me willing to go to treatment maybe, but it's not going to get me sufficient enough to do the work that I need to do. There's no chapter in the back of the book called Into Scare. I get emails from all over the world, folks. I have never once, not once in all the years that I've had access to a computer, has anybody texted me, emailed me, said anything about, oh, Chris, I remember you talking about eating out of dumpsters in Houston, Texas, and I just put the plug in the jug and I've never had a drink since. Yeah, I have had thousands upon thousands upon thousands of emails from people who have said, oh my God, I finally figured this out. I had somebody qualify me. They listened to one of these workshops and they finally, oh my gosh, it came to, I'm an alcoholic. Those guys sat down with me, guys, and they showed me that circle triangle. I'll go real quick with this. I got this little rubber stamp. Where did I put it? My bag's over there. I got that little rubber stamp. If any of you got your books, I'll stamp it in your book because I travel with it all the time. But I mean, this is what they did back in the day. We had it in our books for like 36 years. And then they had problems with trying to copyright it. And anyway, New York, in their wisdom, decided to just take it out of the book. Bill Wilson brought it to us in 50. By 1957, and it was in all the conference-approved literature. Y'all remember seeing it, right? A little circle triangle. We can still use it. They just don't acknowledge it as the AA symbol anymore. But in it was the Recovery Unity Service, and that's how we used to stay in all three parts of the program so we could stay sober. Consequently, back before we lost it, our success rates were way higher than they are today. Am I saying that that's the reason? I don't know. But they sat down with me and they showed me all three parts of the program and they explained the physical craving, mental obsession, spiritual malady. And guys, I got to tell you, it took them about 15 minutes to do, which is going to take me just a little longer than that to explain it here. And I went home that night with tears in my eyes with the knowledge I knew what was wrong with me. Guys, I'm on 7 prescription medications a day. I've been in and out of treatment. I'm an IOP. I've been in AA for 7 stupid years. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And because 2 old guys loved me enough to stay after a meeting and open the big book and showed me what was wrong with me, it changed my life forever. We always talk about it here, get a little newcomer in here, are you an alcoholic? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's move on to step 2. Okay. Well, we got 100 pages in the big book that discuss the 12 steps. 100 pages, 60 of those, give or take a page, are the first step. The other 40 pages talk about the next 11 steps. Now, I hear people out there, there's no more one step more important than the other. Okay. If you say so. I think Bill Wilson really wants us to understand this. Got it? There's a great quote. We got these little stickers everywhere, guys. I got some in Texas if you want them. But I'll send you the artwork. You can get them. It's an excerpt from a letter Bill Wilson did in 1942. He says, our chief responsibility to the newcomer is an adequate presentation of the program. No kidding. See, an adequate presentation of the program is sitting down and explaining what the disease is and how to recover from it. And then you get to decide if you want to play this game or not. Nobody's going to jam it down your throat. Nobody's going to back you into a corner. We're not going to call an interventionist. We're not going to y'all. We're just it's up to you. But golly, guys, we got to start telling the newcomer what this is really about. Adequate presentation of the program is not keep coming back. It works if you work it. That's not it. I'm not knocking that. It's important to keep coming back. Oh, it's not. That's just stupid. I don't know what it's. If we look at the at our AA group, we say stay at the end of the meeting, which is just as stupid. But we do it. but we do it. The Bill Wilson in 1961. Y'all know it was 11th on Monday. I think it was Bill Wilson's AA birthday. He would have been 85. I mean, how cool is that? That's pretty neat. 1961 was 10 years before Bill Wilson passed away. He wrote this little article, Dilemma of No Faith. I can send it to you if you're interested. Bill Wilson wrote, though 300,000 have recovered. Y'all see Bill Wilson, anytime he talks about that, he talks about, Y'all see recovered? There's an ED on that. It didn't say ING. Some of you in here that are still recovering, finish your amends and come with us to the light. Come on. Let's share some hope with a newcomer. Oh my God. Though 300,000 have recovered in the last 25 years, maybe 500,000 more have walked into our midst and then out again. We can't well content ourselves with the view that all these recovery failures were entirely the fault of newcomers themselves. Perhaps a great many didn't receive the kind and amount of sponsorship they so sorely needed. So we didn't communicate when we might have done so. So we AAs failed them. Now you can say what you want about Bill Wilson, but he had some humility about him. He's looking at this thing in 1961. We've been around for a little while, and he's seeing a whole bunch of people come into our fellowship and not stay. Guys, we've never, and I'll talk about it this afternoon when we talk sponsorship stuff. We have never had a problem getting people to come to Alcoholics Anonymous. We have a bear of a challenge to keeping them to stay, bringing them in here for keeps. A lot of times we don't tell the newcomer how to get well. We don't explain this stuff. So the little newcomer just leaves crazy. And then we scrape them off the side of the plate. Well, I've heard it 1,000 times in those 7 years. I knew that little one-eyed son bitch didn't want it. I knew he wasn't ready. Really? Really? I was so ready. This whole message has been so candy-coated and watered down in different parts of the country. It's pap. It's like, why would it work for anybody? Well, maybe, perhaps, one day, maybe you could, perhaps, someday work the steps. Nobody, again, I'm sorry about my sarcasm, guys. Nobody's trying to hurt us when they say that. It's just wrong. Nobody in the early days of Alcoholics Anonymous took months to work the steps. They worked them quick. Pick up a book. Do your own research. There's a race here, guys. I'll say this and I'm going to move on real quick. There's a author down in Florida, archivist, historian, a guy named William White, wonderful guy. And I had a chance to meet him a few times, brilliant. And one of the things he wrote, there was an article he wrote, it talks about this transformational event, this window of opportunity that happens with alcoholics. And how many of y'all can relate to it? You come into a meeting, you start doing a little, you participate a little bit and got some food in your guts and you start feeling a little bit better, get some sleep. And, oh my God. And then some old crusty idiot in the corner wants to take a shot. Oh, you're just on a pink cloud, which I think is really disrespectful because there's no such thing. It's called God's grace. I don't think we need to be doing that, making fun of folks because they're happy. Why? They can't be a grumpy like you? Oh my God. I don't know. I'll be glad when all of those people leave our fellowship. Go to the light. Go to the light. Probably shouldn't have said that. Okay. I know that wasn't I. They talk about this little window of opportunity, though, guys, and depending on how far the illness has progressed, this window will stay open. You know, you come in and you do hardly nothing, and you just go into meetings and you start feeling great, and it's just, guys, you're getting some results of what you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes it'll stay open a week, 2 weeks, 6 months. I don't know, depending on the progression of the illness, it'll stay open, and then it slams. Y'all follow? Then it shuts. It's like, I don't know, I was doing so good yesterday, and today I'm drinking. Yeah, that's what happens, guys. Let's get the steps done while the window's open. The biggest mistake we make in Alcoholics Anonymous today is that we don't qualify the alcoholic, which thereby would put the urgency on them to finish this work. We go too slow through the steps. This idea of taking a year to work the steps is utter rubbish. Guys, we can work the steps forever. I'm 32 years sober. My buddies in that work. Periodically, I do 4th and 5th steps. I spend a lot of time in there. Every time I'm about working and reworking the steps. First time through, though, guys, is like triage. Let's get the bleeding stopped now. And some of you disagree with that. Okay, maybe let me show you why some of you disagree with it. You see this? You can't probably see this, but this is a little timeline. You see this little guy? He's a little dead guy, okay? He's a little dead guy down there. This is a little timeline. Everybody in here is on this little glide path, okay? Alcoholism and drug addiction, and this is not big book, but the jury's in. We proved this years ago in science, in the industry, treatment. This genetic. Alcoholism and drug addiction is predisposed illness. American Medical Association, by 56 or calling it an illness. By 1961, they finally said, we just got to stop this. This is nonsense. This is a disease. The same exact symptoms are there with every single one of you. Y'all got it? Women, men, black, white, gay, straight, even Yankees. Oh my God. Go figure, the symptoms are the same. The deal is that so many people, the people that I deal with, they want to look at the young people and they think, well, you have I heard a counselor one time say this, well, you have like young adult alcoholism. That's different from adult alcoholism. It's like, what, are you nuts? It's progressively, look, here. There's a little eggy and there's a little spermy right there. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was not. She lived to be 92 years old. She had a glass of white wine every night forever. Y'all follow? A glass of white wine. My father was, he was a real McCoy, nice, sweet man. But just still, genetically, we could look up our family tree. Just for jokes, how many of y'all can look up your family tree and see active addiction up in your family tree? Let the record show everybody. Okay, and there... I had an argument with a guy. I was doing a workshop not long ago, and a guy came out and says, there's no alcoholism in my family. And I got to talking to him and found out he was adopted. Oh, my God. Oh, okay, buddy. All right. Well, we'll see. He had no idea who his family was, but it just, okay. Proof pudding. There's some great literature out there. There's a great old book called Born That Way that talks specifically about, it's not just about alcoholism. It just makes so much of this that we have is genetic, predisposed. It's not everybody's causal, you're not an alcoholic because you were raised by a pack of wolves. They didn't help the matter, but they didn't cause it. You got to look at it. When you stop blaming everybody out there for your drinking and drugging, you'll be amazed how easy it is to get well. All right. We're going to talk about it in 4th step here coming up. All right. As this thing progressively gets worse, eventually you'll get to a place where you can't get sober. I can't tell by looking at this gathering how many of you guys are where you are on this glide plane. Don't look at the old geezers with gray beard and think that that they're like end-stage alcoholic. I sponsored some young guys that were 18, 19 years old that were end-stage alcoholics. Blackout drinkers at 18. Guys, I was drinking a long time before I ever had anything close to a blackout. Some of us are functioning alcoholics. We drank for 30, 40 years before the wheels started coming off. It's difficult. Stop looking at this chronologically. We don't know why. Different people, that just travels different people. The jury seems to be in it travels faster in women than it does in men. Have no idea why. Neither do they. They're still looking at it. But pay attention to it, because you're going to be able to see the symptoms easier if the illness has progressed a little bit. But I'll tell you this, I started drinking it when I was about 17 years old, and you could have diagnosed me with alcoholism 2 weeks later if you'd have known the questions to ask. But we didn't for so many years. All we're doing is looking at the stupid drama. Have you had a drunk driving charge? Look online. Look at the questions they ask for alcoholics. All the crazy, stupid questions. Why don't you ask the 2 questions that the big book asks? Because that's what it asks you. It's not 22 questions. It's not 44 questions. Y'all follow? Reader's Digest had a deal on there one time. Oh my God, there's all these gazillions of questions. Do you hide your liquor? Do you do that? 2 questions and we can qualify you. We can find out once and for all what you are. And we could do it with a little dope fiends. Some of you in here are little combo jobs. Some of y'all qualify for every 12-step fellowship out there. And there are close to 300 now. Oh my gosh, Chicken Molesters Anonymous. Okay, we get. Bill Wilson wanted us to see this. He talks about in the big book, he talks about different kinds of drinkers over and over and over again. And on page 20, 21, one of my favorites, moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up entirely if they have a good reason for it. They can take it or leave it alone. I don't think we got any moderate anybody in here. Maybe. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair himself physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. But if, mark that word, if a sufficient strong reason comes along, ill health, falling in love, change of an environment, warning from a doctor, if any of this becomes operative, this cat can stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may even need medical attention. Yeah, AA is full of hard drinkers. A lot of people in there. Yep. Given sufficient reason. I'm fixing to lose my job, I quit. The doctor said if I didn't quit, I'd stop. And they were just walked away. No spiritual experience needed. They just walked away. How cool is that? If they wouldn't say anything in a meeting, it would be a lot cooler. They're just put the plug in the jug and make a decision not to drink. It's that simple. They're the ones that are driving us crazy. Because if you can do that, you're not one of us. I'm going there at warp speed, guys. But what about the real alcoholic? This is Bill Wilson's words. If you want to set an AA group on fire, go in there and introduce yourself as a real alcoholic. Oh, the old timers will come unglued. I know. You think you're special? Yeah. The only thing that'll set their hair on fire faster is to introduce yourself as a recovered alcoholic. Oh, man. God. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker, may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of their drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts. And then he goes on. Guys, from the doctor's opinion up to page 23, it talks about what happens when I put alcohol in my system. Dr. Silkworth, that's medical director, I guess, at Towns Hospital for 16 years, supposedly. I don't know. A brilliant guy, but he started seeing similarities between the alcoholics. Y'all remember back in the day, back in these early mid-30s, if you were an alcoholic in England and you wanted to get treatment, you'd come to the United States and you go to Towns Hospital. If they scraped your little drunk butt off Central Park needing treatment, they would take you to Towns Hospital. We didn't have these specialty places where the rich people go over here and the poor people go over here. Dr. Silkworth got a front row seat of watching whole bunches of people come in with completely different walks of life. The same symptoms. We have a common problem and a common solution. You are not unique where we're talking about the illness. It's what drives me crazy. I'll just take this second to mention it. AA has spent a lot of time, and I know a lot of well-meaning people have helped with all the brochures. Every time I turn around and read another conference report, we've got another damn brochure out there. AA and gay people, AA and young people, AA and women, AA and vets, AA and people on medications, AA and this. Jeez Louise. Really? I want my own damn brochure. That's all I'm saying. The skinny one-eyed guys that ate out of dumpsters in Houston, Texas. I mean, I want my brochure. Because I got to tell you, and there's been some people that have written some wonderful articles about them. I got to say, when we stop separating us with all of that external stuff and start looking at us as what we are, the same, we'll start seeing a lot more people get sober. My terminal uniqueness is what kept me loaded forever. You don't understand, comma, my case is different. That's what kills alcoholics. You're not. The symptoms are the same. Here it is. 23 to 43. You got the physical craving. Bill Wilson talks about what happens in those pages when I put alcohol in my system. From 23 to 43, we're going to talk about the mental obsession, the piece that you guys trip over. So a lot of people have problem with that. The physical piece is pretty simple. When you put alcohol in your system, does the craving kick in? Excuse me, do you end up drinking more than you intended? It's a question we ought to ask. Everybody that drinks gets one bonus puke. Okay, everybody, you go to high school, first keg party, you drink too much, you throw up like a geyser, you'll fall. All right. That person will never do that again. I watched my little sister do that one time. She got sick. She says, I'm never going to do this again. She's never done it again. Christmas is coming. I'll see her at Christmas. And we spent for the last 32 years trying to get her drunk. Come on, Lisa, you can do it. Drink up. Drink up. No. She'll drink. She'll have a couple of drinks. She's no, thank you. I'm starting to feel it. Me too. I don't know. Just no. Hard drinker. They learn from their mistakes. I'm never going to drink that much again. They stop. They think I'm a two. That's it. When I do that, my head, that craving kicks in and I'm off to the stupid races. Y'all got it? The phenomenal craving never takes place in normal drinkers. One of the things that we got to mention real quick in here too, though, guys, there's a lot of things out there right now that will trigger that phenomenal craving in alcoholics. Benzodiazepines are one of them. We're losing more people in Alcoholics Anonymous today via benzodiazepines than anything else. And I know some of us have to take those medications for various reasons. Be really careful with them because it triggers the same area of the brain that the alcohol triggers. So just be careful. Medication, over the counter, any alcohol that I put in my system, NyQuil, I can't tell you how many people I watch relapse around things they're putting in their system, but because it doesn't say Scotch on the outside, they think they're okay. If it has alcohol in it, ETOH, you're screwed. Christmas time, Mom used to give us those little cordials, these little cherry things. If they have alcohol in it. Mom just getting free. I said, Mom, I'm sober now. And y'all quit giving us those for Christmas. We can't eat them. And it's just, they got alcohol in them. You'd have to eat a bushel of those to get drunk. She never got it. Y'all thought, no, I would have to eat one. If the progression of the illness has progressed very far, guys, my system will be light up like a neon sign. Early on in your illness, maybe you can drink non-alcoholic beer. Maybe you could eat those cordials. Maybe you could have a little veal marsala. If that illness has progressed very far, you can't eat that stuff. You can't put that stuff in your system without triggering that craving. You'll be off to the stupid races. Those little bums, Patty and I have a little apartment in downtown San Antonio, and we're just a few blocks from the mission down there for Haven for Hope. Nice, neat little place. We've got a lot of homeless people down there in our neighborhood. Those little guys are not walking around with a box of wine on their back. They've got those little stupid things they get at 7-Eleven, those little bottles about that big, and they'll uncrack it, take a couple of sips, put it back on, lay back down on the cardboard and go to bed. Their body is so sensitized to alcohol, they don't need, the tolerance level has dropped back down. This is a symbol of end-stage alcoholism, folks. If your tolerance level has dropped down, that's where most of us end up in treatment, coming in Alcoholics Anonymous. I used to drink a case of beer and go to work, literally. Of course, I was a stud too, but... No. Physical craving, mental obsession. From 23 to 43, Bill Wilson gets crystal clear about this, guys. These are some of the best stories in the book. Several places in the book, it continues to tell you, if you're having trouble with the spiritual end of this, go back and read more about alcoholism. It's the chapter to the employers. If you don't understand this, go to read more about alcoholism. It didn't say, read the stories in the back of the book. It didn't say that. I am not a fan. Again, it's just a story. All right, just read them. But read these. Page 24, real quick, and I'll scrap. 24, the fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory and suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. This will make you tense up, folks. Chris is fixing to do 2 and 3. You guys pay attention to it. It'll make you feel better. Because the realization that this applies to you will make you uncomfortable. There is a first step experience. It's discomfort. Guys, that's the hardest piece to get people to understand is this thing called choice. You get people in treatment, you get the family members come in, it's just, Ron's in treatment, is just family comes in and, well, why do you think Ron's drinking? Well, because he's an alcoholic. We've just spent 3 days talking about the disease concept. I'm fascinated with that. Oh my God, yes, a disease, yeah. American Medical Association, yeah, oh yes, he has an illness. And they look around like, but why do you think he drinks? They're not buying it any more than a man in the moon. They still believe X is on the outside, that there's something they can change out here so he'll be okay. Unfortunately, a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous believe that too. The old guy sitting in an AA meeting, I got up this morning and chose not to drink. Did you really? Wow. We got to stop that nonsense, guys. If you can get up every morning and choose not to drink and make it stick, that's fine. These old timers in 1987 got in my little face, tears in my eyes, and they just said, Chris, buddy, if you want to get well, you're going to have a thing called a spiritual experience. There was no tiptoeing around about that nonsense. Have a spiritual experience, the obsession to drink will leave you, and you can go kick some butt. I haven't thought about taking a drink in 32 years. Death of both my parents, crazy shit happening in those 32 years at times. Yeah, unhappy as I could be in certain periods. Never wanted to drink. The thought of taking a drink never crossed my mind. And I have sponsored gazillions of guys that have had the same experience. I know a bunch of you in this room nodding your head that have had the same experience. Guys, this is what this is about. This idea that we're going to offer you a program that you're going to have to do just perfectly so that you won't relapse is ridiculous. It's not that. It's not. I don't keep me sober. Let me say it real quick. I have lost the power of choice in drink. I have hundreds of choices. My little butt got up this morning. Y'all follow? I'm on Texas time. Early I got up, did a little prayer meditation that I've been doing for 32 years. Simple, quiet. I still do that. On the phone last night, coming in from the airport, talking to a little guy of mine that's struggling. Little guy is sponsor. I still sponsor a bunch of guys. All of these are my choices. I choose to have a home group. I choose to network with a bunch of people in my posse, my buddies in this room. I got lots of choices. But whether I'm going to drink or not is not one of them. If it's a choice, then it's a behavioral problem. It's not a disease. Words have meaning. So if you're telling people they have a choice, you're indicating that it's a behavioral problem. In my years in treatment, I've treated, that I can think of, about 5 people that were on liver transplant lists. These doctors are so narrow-minded. They have a tendency not want to give a new liver to somebody that's still drinking. I don't know why they do that, but anyway. And so the guys come to treatment, but they're the worst patients on earth. You'll follow? Because you don't understand. If I drink again, I'm going to get taken off the liver transplant list and I'm going to die. And I said, you don't understand. Every person in this room is going to die if they don't do certain things. You think fear is going to keep you sober. You'll follow? I watched one of them get a new liver and stay sober. The other 4 drank. before or after they got the liver? Did they choose to do that? The obsession got them. The obsession got them, and they went and did the stupid stuff they're supposed to do. I'll close this up real quick. This spiritual piece that Bill Wilson added to our circle triangle, this will confuse the little two-parters. I believe Bill Wilson really understood this. You know, he talks about two-part in the book, but he spends a bunch of pages talking about the spiritual malady. If I don't do the things necessary I'm supposed to do, this internal discomfort, Bill Wilson talks about on page 52, the bedevilments, this stuff starts to come back and starts to kick our butt. How many of y'all have sat in meetings and not working the steps and have been irritable, restless, and discontent? Yeah, low self-esteem, this feeling of uselessness, this depression, misery comes back. I mean, guys, you take the alcohol away from me, I don't get better. I get worse. There's a guy up in Massachusetts that wrote a little piece. Danny, he's a great little author. He says, when a problem or heavy drinker stops drinking, the worst is over. When an alcoholic stops drinking, the worst is yet to come. Me alone, without a spiritual connectedness, y'all follow? Just not drinking one stupid day at a time is hell on earth. Yes. I was talking to a girl yesterday on the phone. She'd had 2 days sober. I just struggling not to drink. It doesn't have to be that way. This internal discomfort is what needs to be treated. And it happens as a result of working the steps. At some place in the work, that obsession to use is going to leave, and you're going to get comfortable in your skin again. How many of y'all remember before you ever took a drink being really uncomfortable? I mean, at 14 years old, my mama came out and she says, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, I think it's adolescent angst. It's just all teenagers are uncomfortable. Guys, this was I'm dying here. I don't feel worth a poot. 17 years old, somebody gives me a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine, and I drink that. And I mean to tell you, I'm sitting there with a big old grin on my face, breathing all the way in and all the way out for the first time in my young adult life. It were good. A lot of nodding heads. You'll follow? Alcohol will treat that spiritual malady. But I can't drink alcohol because I can't control how much I put in my system anymore. So now what I got to do is I got to get to a place of sobriety where I'm not uncomfortable inside. Can y'all relate? That little rubber stamp that we stamp, y'all can draw it in your book, that little circle triangle. Guys, if you can stay in all three parts of that circle triangle, meetings, sponsorship, work those stupid steps, you will, trust me, you'll be golden. I don't know what's going to happen externally. The little issue man over here, all this external stuff, people are going to come, people are going to go, people are going to get sick, people are going to die. I don't know what's going to happen in our lives. What kind of a program do we have if it only works when things are going good? Oh, but think of the times that things were going really, really good in your life and you dropped it down the toilet by going and getting a bottle. When didn't I drink? No such thing as triggers. Trigger's a horse. He's dead. This is so good. We're going to take a really quick little break here. And then, guys, no kidding, 10, 15 minutes max. Come back, and Chris is going to do 2 and 3. Thanks. Yay.